All right, let's do item number 6 here on our SEC Country Live First in 10 list. And I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed for Dan Mullen for this quote I'm about to read. He's speaking at one of these spring tour events. Mullen's done a million of these. I think he somewhat, deserves a commendation for how many of these events he's doing. What are you doing? You okay?
No, I'm just thinking you wake up disappointed in Dan Mullen. It's
no,
like,
that's not true.
I'm disappointed in Dan Mullen today.
That's not true.
Blow me away. I'll be
no. I'll read the quote. You can decide for yourself, Hotshot. You do the talking on this one. So the subject comes up of playing tough non-conference games. Alabama is going to go to Notre Dame in a couple years, a decade. Georgia's playing Notre Dame again next year. All these SEC teams doing a bunch of heavy lifting when it comes to schedules. But Mullen says Florida State, that's enough. Here's his quote via 24/7 Sports. He says, we already play one of the toughest schedules. You're talking about already having Florida State as a permanent game. I think one of the things that it does is it limits some of how you're able to schedule. Other schools say, like, boy, hey, we're going to play a big-time opponent, and they do. Well, we do that with Florida State. Oh, well, like, we already play that game. What about other big-time opponents? Well, most other people, they have the one big-time opponent. A lot of them are playing, and we already have that built into the schedule. He goes on to say that he wouldn't mind like going to play a game in Ireland or something like that. Nobody wants to see Florida go to Ireland. No. People do want to see Florida play Ohio State, play a game like Michigan, the way they played a couple years ago, play Miami in your own state for goodness sakes. You can't tell me that doesn't disappoint you.
It does. It really. And I wanted to pile on you a minute ago, but I felt the same way. And listen. You guys have heard me talk about the 9-game conference schedule that I really want to lobby for, right? I really want that to be a part. Until that happens, there's room for another one of these games. And I understand what he's saying. Listen, we're backloaded with with these games. Look at South Carolina last year, though. They're backloaded with Clemson. Guess what? They go out and face NC State in the opener. It's possible to do, and especially this day and age. And I've talked about this a bunch of times. This is a playoff. You don't lose one game and get eliminated from national title contention. There is a playoff, and a committee can go in there and look at it and say, boy, you know what? They opened up with a really tough game on the road, or they opened up with a really tough game at a neutral site. It is disappointing for Dan Mullen to kind of talk about it like that, because the fact of the matter is you're always going to play Florida State. So we're never going to see Florida in any other big matchups with anybody? I guess not, if Dan Mullen has anything to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, he says we already play one of the toughest schedules in the country, but here's how it starts this year. Charleston Southern week 1, Kentucky week 2, Colorado State week 3, it's at Tennessee week 4. The only game that's going to have any consequence whatsoever in the first 4 weeks of the season is the Tennessee team that was winless in the SEC a year ago. You are at Mississippi State on week 5 to close out the month of September. At that point in time, you're kind of in business here. But those first 3 games are total embarrassments. The 4th game is not a whole lot to write home about, which is to say nothing of the fact that back in November you swing back around and play Idaho. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that's not good enough.
Let's give credit where credit's due. I mean, I might be speaking wrong here, but Florida does play Miami in a coming up season. I don't know if it's 19 or 20 or it's a couple of years down the road.
They haven't played them
in a long time. They haven't played them, but they do.
Since 2001, probably.
I think they have them on the schedule in 2020. So it's coming up.
Early 2000s.
My point is this: they wouldn't have that Miami. That was not something Dan Mullen okayed, right? I mean, that Miami game was done before we're even talking about Dan Mullen right here. And if he puts a stop on that moving forward, then I think Florida fans are getting not as much as you bargained for, right? I mean, I just think that's the nature of the beast. I think that all fan bases want their teams to play in high-profile games. And if Dan Mullen's standing pat and saying, you know what, we're good with Idaho, and we're good with Louisiana Monroe, and we're good, then I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a good look.
Terry Crews says they should play UCF.
That's never going to happen. Listen, Alabama doesn't play UAB, vice versa. It never happens that way. Now, South Florida, I can see that happening. I can see them playing South Florida from a little bit farther down the road, but I don't think they're ever going to play UCF.
They don't want to play FAU right now.
No.
Morgan Recton also says it's 2020. He thinks that Miami's playing Florida, which is there you go. And listen, here's the one thing I'll say in fairness to Mullen. Mullen's opinion here is not unique. Most of these coaches don't want to play anybody.
That's the thing.
Most of these coaches don't want to play anybody. But Florida is virtually the only school in the SEC. And you're right. South Carolina plays Clemson, still plays a tough week 1 opponent. Georgia plays Georgia Tech, which is obviously not the same category of Clemson and Florida State. Right. I do get that. But Georgia's going to play plenty of non-conference September games against big-time opponents. Not doing one this year, but that's really been the outlier recently for Georgia. Florida, the one game against Michigan is the total outlier. Every other year, Florida September looks like something that, American Heritage High School will be playing.
Yeah, no, here's the thing, too. Look at the teams that are successful. I mean, let's look at Clemson, right? They play South Carolina, a crossover game to the SEC every year. Tough opponent. Guess what? They're going to Texas A&M to get some more. They're going to Auburn. They're trying to schedule games with Georgia. Look at Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State's got all these games going. They got Michigan, and they're playing, still Notre Dame and USC, and they played Oklahoma last year. The teams that really want to get there are trying to get there. You just have to go to those. You don't have to win all of them. You just have to get there and win the ones you need to.